The Cygnus constellation is said to resemble a swan extending its wings across the Milky Way galaxy. Lying on the plane of the Milky Way, it is one of the most recognizable constellations in the sky. The brightest stars of Cygnus mark a prominent asterism, which is known as the Northern Cross. In order to find Cygnus, you would first locate the summer triangle, which is composed of 3 of the brightest stars in the night sky. The first brightest is Vega, which lies in the constellation of Lyra. The second of these brightest stars, called Deneb, lies in Cygnus and makes up the tail of the swan. Although second brightest in the triangle, Deneb is the first brightest star in the Cygnus constellation and has a luminosity of nearly 200,000 times that of our Sun. It shines at an apparent visual magnitude of 1.3 and has a distance of approximately 2,600 light-years away from Earth. As a blue-white supergiant, its high mass and temperature mean that it will have a short lifespan and will probably go supernova within a few million years. It has already stopped fusing hydrogen in its core. After locating Deneb, or the tail of the swan, follow the line of stars all the way to your right to take you to the star Alboreo. In reference to the summer triangle, Alboreo lies approximately halfway between the brightest star Vega and the third brightest star in the triangle, called Altair. Alboreo, also known as Beta Cygni, represents the beak, or head of the swan. It is the 5th brightest star in Cygnus and is at a distance of approximately 430 light-years from Earth. It appears to the naked eye as a single star of magnitude 3. However, when seen through a telescope, you will see that it is actually a double or binary star system. The brighter of the 2 stars, Alboreo A, is yellowish in color and has an apparent magnitude of 3.1. The smaller of the 2, Alboreo B, is blue-green in color and has an apparent magnitude of 5.1. At the midway point between Deneb and Alboreo, you will find the star Gamma Cygni. The traditional name, which comes from the Arabic language, is Sadar and means chest of the swan. Sadar is a yellow-tinged supergiant star with a magnitude of 2.2 and sits at 1,500 light-years away from Earth. Being an F-type star, this indicates that Sadar has reached the supergiant stage of its stellar evolution. The easternmost star of the swan is called Janai, which means the wing in Arabic language. With its apparent visual magnitude of 2.5, Janai, also known as Epsilon Cygni, is a spectral Class K star and can be seen in the night sky without the use of a telescope. At 73 light-years from Earth, this star has left the main sequence and has begun the final stages in its stellar evolution. The westernmost star, Delta Cygni, represents the right wing of the swan and is also called the North Star. It is the 3rd magnitude star in the Cygnus constellation, but is actually a triple star system that shines at an apparent magnitude of 2.86. In Greek mythology, Cygnus has been identified with several different legendary swans. Zeus, who was god of the sky, briefly disguised himself as a swan to try and seduce Leda, who was the wife of the king of Sparta. Another myth tells that the swan is Orpheus, a legendary musician. Orpheus was murdered, and after his murder, he was transformed into a swan and placed in the heavens next to his harp, named Lyra. In one myth, Zeus turned Cygnus, friend of Pathon, into a swan. Pathon, son of the sun god Apollo, fell into a river while trying to drive the sun god's chariot. After Cygnus repeatedly dove into the water in search of his friend, Zeus took pity on Cygnus by turning him into a swan. According to Ovid's Metamorphoses, Phyllis tamed all sorts of wild animals as gifts to Cygnus. However, when Cygnus demanded a bull, Phyllis tamed the bull but wouldn't give it to him. Out of spite, Cygnus jumped off of a cliff. Instead of falling to his death, he is transformed into a swan and flies away. The son of Neptune, also named Cygnus, is a warrior in the Trojan War. He is invulnerable to all stabbing weapons, much to the frustration of his enemy, Achilles. Achilles finally kills Cygnus by smashing his face in with his shield. But Neptune saves Cygnus by transforming him into a swan. There are several star clusters and nebula found in Cygnus due to its position on the Milky Way. M39 is an open cluster at 950 light-years from Earth and is visible to the naked eye under dark skies. There are approximately 30 stars that are triangularly arranged over a wide area. The bright stars of M39 are of the 7th magnitude. Another open cluster in Cygnus is NGC 6910, also known as the Rocking Horse Cluster. It contains 16 stars with a diameter of 5 arcminutes and has a magnitude of 7.4. At the bottom of the Rocking Horse are 2 gold-hued stars, which are the brightest in the cluster. A blinking planetary nebula, NGC 6826, has a magnitude of 8.5 and is 3,200 light-years from Earth. It appears to blink in the eyepiece of a telescope because its central star is unusually bright. When an observer focuses on the star, the nebula appears to fade out. The North American Nebula, NGC 7000, is one of the most well-known nebula in Cygnus because it is visible to the naked eye as a bright patch in the Milky Way. However, this is difficult to observe through a telescope because of its low surface brightness, due to it being so large. At its widest, the North American Nebula is 2 degrees across. It's illuminated by a hot embedded star that has a magnitude of 6 and is 1,500 light-years from Earth. The Veil Nebula, also called the Cygnus Loop, is a 5,000-year-old supernova remnant that covers approximately 3 degrees of the sky. The Cygnus Loop is over 50 light-years long. The Crescent Nebula, also known as Caldwell 27, is about 5,000 light-years away. It's an emission nebula, a shell of glowing gas ejected by a dying star. The central star supplying the energy to the Crescent Nebula is known as a Wolf-Rayet star. Discovered in 1964 during a rocket flight, Cygnus X1 is one of the strongest galactic X-ray sources seen from Earth today. It was the first X-ray source widely accepted to be a black hole candidate, and it remains among the most studied astronomical objects in its class even today.